My name is Jessica Morgan, and for the last 6 years, I've been raising my brother's children while he's off living his best life. When Tyler called me last Tuesday to announce that he and Amber were having twins again, making it 4 kids total, I felt something inside me finally snap. Not the excited aunt reaction he was expecting. Not the congratulations he thought he deserved. Just a cold, hard realization that I was done being the unpaid nanny while he played dad on social media. This isn't a story about sibling rivalry or petty jealousy. This is about what happens when you finally stop sacrificing yourself for people who never appreciated you in the first place. And trust me, when I finally walked away, the fallout was bigger than anyone expected. But before we jump back in, tell us where you're tuning in from. And if this story touches you, make sure you're subscribed, because tomorrow I've saved something extra special for you. It started 6 years ago when Tyler showed up at my apartment in Phoenix with 6-month-old Lily in a car seat and 2 duffel bags of baby supplies. He had that sheepish grin he always wore when he needed something. The one that worked on our parents every single time. His girlfriend at the time, a woman named Crystal, had left him. Just packed up and disappeared one morning, leaving Tyler with a baby he had no idea how to care for. I was 23, fresh out of college with my teaching degree, living in a cramped studio apartment in a Phoenix suburb where the air conditioning barely worked, and the walls were so thin I could hear my neighbors breathing. Tyler stood in my doorway, Lily crying in her carrier, and said the words that would define the next 6 years of my life. Just for a few weeks, Jess. I need to get my feet under me. Mom and Dad are too busy with their stuff. You're so good with kids. Please. I should have said no right then. I should have told him to figure it out like every other single parent in the world. But Lily's face was red from crying, and Tyler looked genuinely desperate, and I'd spent my whole life being the responsible one, the fixer, the person everyone turned to when things fell apart. So I said yes. Just for a few weeks turned into a month. Then 2 months. Then 6. I moved into a slightly bigger 1-bedroom apartment, giving Lily the bedroom while I slept on a pull-out couch in the living room. Tyler would show up every few days with diapers or formula, staying just long enough to take a few photos with Lily for his Facebook page before rushing off to work or the gym, or wherever he claimed he needed to be. My parents praised him constantly. Look at Tyler, stepping up after Crystal abandoned him. He's doing his best. He just needs time to adjust. Meanwhile, I was the one waking up at 2 in the morning for feedings, the one missing happy hours with my teacher friends because I had a teething baby, the one spending my modest teaching salary on baby food and clothes and toys. When Lily turned 2, Tyler met Amber at a CrossFit gym. Amber was 24, blonde, obsessed with her Instagram presence, and had zero interest in being a stepmom. She tolerated Lily in small doses, usually when the lighting was good for photos. Tyler was smitten. Within 6 months, they'd moved in together into a spacious 4-bedroom house in a nice Phoenix neighborhood with a backyard and a pool. I thought finally Tyler would take Lily back. They had the space. They had 2 incomes. Amber's Instagram influencer career was taking off, bringing in decent money from sponsorships. But when I suggested it, Tyler looked at me like I'd proposed something insane. Jess, Lily's comfortable with you. She barely knows me anymore. It would be cruel to uproot her now. Besides, Amber and I are still adjusting to living together. We need time to be a couple before we jump into full-time parenting. I stood there in his beautiful new kitchen with its granite countertops and stainless steel appliances, looking at this man who was my brother, and realized he had no intention of ever taking responsibility. But what could I do? Lily called me mama by then. She ran to me when she scraped her knee, held my hand on the first day of preschool, fell asleep every night with her head on my shoulder. I couldn't just give her back like returning a library book. So I stayed silent, swallowed my resentment, and kept being the parent Tyler refused to be. Then Amber got pregnant. Mason was born when Lily was 4, and I naively hoped that having a biological child together would force Tyler and Amber to grow up. Instead, 3 weeks after Mason was born, Tyler showed up at my apartment again, this time with an infant and a toddler. Amber's struggling with postpartum depression. She needs rest. The baby cries all night. Lily's too loud in the mornings. Can they stay with you for just a little while? I'd moved into a 2-bedroom apartment by then, using every penny of a small raise I'd gotten at Sunshine Elementary School, where I taught 3rd grade. My living room was already full of Lily's toys. My weekends were already consumed by dance classes and playground visits. And now Tyler wanted me to take Mason too. The smart thing would have been to refuse. The healthy thing would have been to set boundaries. But Mason was 3 weeks old, tiny and helpless. And Tyler had that desperate look again. And our mother was already calling me saying Tyler really needs you right now, Jessica. You're so capable. You can handle this. So I took Mason. And Lily. And I became a full-time mother to 2 children who weren't mine while their actual parents lived in their big house posting Instagram stories about their fitness journey and date nights and how blessed they were. The financial strain was crushing. Daycare for 2 kids cost $1,200 a month. I was spending $400 on groceries just to keep them fed. Clothes, diapers, wipes, toys, birthday parties, everything came out of my teaching salary of $48,000 a year. I started keeping a spreadsheet, meticulously tracking every dollar I spent on Tyler's kids. Partly because I'm an organized person by nature, partly because some small voice in my head whispered that I might need proof someday. Tyler would occasionally Venmo me $100 with a breezy "thanks sis. You're the best," like that even scratched the surface of what I was spending. Our parents helped him buy the new truck he wanted, a $45,000 Ford F-150 in metallic blue that he posed with constantly. They paid for Amber's photography equipment when she decided to pivot her Instagram content to professional style shoots. But when I mentioned that daycare costs were eating my entire paycheck, my mother said, "Well, you chose to help Tyler. No one forced you." Sunday dinners at my parents' ranch-style home became my weekly torture session. My mother Karen would set out elaborate spreads, pot roast and mashed potatoes and homemade pies, while my father David grilled steaks on their expensive outdoor kitchen setup. Tyler and Amber would arrive late, both of them tan and fit from their gym sessions, talking about their latest weekend getaway to Sedona, or their plans to hike Camelback Mountain. Lily and Mason would run to them excitedly, and Tyler would scoop them up for exactly the amount of time it took to get a good photo, then hand them back to me the second they got fussy or needed something. Nobody noticed. Or if they did, they pretended not to. After dinner, Tyler and my father would watch football while Amber edited photos on her phone. My mother and I would clean up the kitchen. Except she'd spend the whole time telling me how proud she was of Tyler. He's really matured since meeting Amber. He's working so hard to provide for his family. Amber's business is taking off. Did you see she hit 45,000 followers? I'd scrub dishes in silence, swallowing words that tasted like acid. What about me? I wanted to scream. What about the fact that I haven't been on a date in 3 years because I'm too exhausted from raising kids that aren't mine? What about the fact that I'm 29 years old, and I've put my entire life on hold so Tyler can pretend to be Father of the Year on social media? But I said nothing. I just dried the dishes and loaded Lily and Mason into my 7-year-old Honda Civic with the check engine light that had been on for 6 months because I couldn't afford to fix it, and drove back to my cramped apartment where toys covered every surface, and my bathroom constantly smelled like baby shampoo. My best friend Rachel Kim, a fellow teacher at Sunshine Elementary, was the only person who saw through the family's narrative. We'd have lunch together in her classroom, and she'd watch me scroll through Tyler's Facebook posts with barely concealed rage. He literally posted a photo of Mason that you took at the zoo last weekend, and captioned it cherishing these daddy-daughter moments. That's not even the right gender of child. He doesn't even know his. Preparing and narrating this story took us a lot of time, so if you are enjoying it, subscribe to our channel, it means a lot to us. Now back to the story. His own son well enough to get that right. Rachel was Korean American, direct to the point of bluntness, fiercely loyal, and had no patience for my family's dynamics. When I'd make excuses for Tyler, she'd cut me off mid-sentence. Stop. Just stop, Jessica. He's not going to change. He's never going to step up. You're enabling him, and your parents are enabling him, and you need to get out before you wake up at 40 having given your entire life to kids whose father couldn't even be bothered to remember their birthdays. She was right, but I didn't want to hear it. Because hearing it meant acknowledging that I'd wasted 6 years. It meant facing the reality that my family didn't value me beyond my usefulness. It meant accepting that Tyler had been using me all along and I'd let him. So I kept going. Kept waking up at dawn to make breakfast and pack lunches. Kept attending parent-teacher conferences for kids whose actual parents were at hot yoga. Kept pretending that everything was fine even as the weight of resentment grew heavier every single day. Then came the Tuesday that changed everything. I was in my classroom after school, grading spelling tests and planning the next week's lessons. My phone rang with Tyler's contact photo, him and Amber at the beach looking like a resort advertisement. I almost didn't answer. I was tired. It had been a long day of managing 25 8-year-olds. And I still had to pick up Lily and Mason from the after-school program I could barely afford. But I answered anyway, like I always did. Hey Jess, Tyler's voice was bright with excitement. Got some amazing news. Amber's pregnant. We're having twins. Can you believe it? 2 more. We're going to have 4 kids. The world seemed to tilt sideways. I sat down hard in my desk chair, my hand gripping my phone so tight my knuckles went white. 4 kids. He was announcing this like it was winning the lottery, not creating 2 more human beings he had no intention of raising. My voice came out flat and cold. Congratulations. There was a pause. Tyler clearly expected squealing and excitement. When he spoke again, his tone was uncertain. I mean, it's a lot. We weren't planning it. But Amber's really excited. She wants to do a gender reveal party next month. You'll help plan it, right? You're so good at that stuff. Something inside me cracked. Not broke, not yet. But cracked. Like ice starting to splinter under too much weight. I have to go, Tyler. I need to pick up your kids from after-school care. I hung up before he could respond. That night, after I'd fed Lily and Mason dinner, supervised bath time, read 3 bedtime stories, and finally got them both to sleep, I sat on my couch in the dark and let myself think the thoughts I'd been pushing away for 6 years. I was 29 years old. I had no savings, no dating life, no hobbies beyond the ones I did with children who called me mama, but whose father posted about them like they were his whole world. I'd been accepted to a graduate program in school counseling 3 years ago and turned it down because I couldn't afford it while supporting 2 kids. My own dreams were on permanent hold while Tyler and Amber planned their 4th child like it was a fun new project. I pulled up Instagram on my phone, something I rarely did anymore because it hurt too much. Amber's feed was a perfectly curated highlight reel. Her doing yoga at sunset. Her and Tyler at expensive restaurants. Her in designer workout clothes with captions about self-care and living your best life. There were photos of Lily and Mason, but only the aesthetically pleasing ones. Lily in a flower crown at golden hour. Mason's tiny hand holding Amber's perfectly manicured one. Never the reality of tantrums or snotty noses, or the exhausting daily grind of actual parenting. That was all happening at my apartment, off camera, unacknowledged. I started documenting everything the next morning. Every diaper change, every meal prepared, every school pickup, every doctor's appointment. I created a new spreadsheet with columns for date, activity, time spent, and money invested. The numbers were staggering when laid out in black and white. In the past month alone, I'd spent $1,800 on Tyler's children. I'd devoted 240 hours to their care outside of my regular teaching job. That was a part-time job's worth of hours, unpaid, unacknowledged, taken for granted. Rachel found me in my classroom during lunch that Wednesday, staring at my laptop screen with the spreadsheet open. She looked over my shoulder, her eyes widening as she scrolled through 6 years of meticulously tracked data. Holy hell, Jessica. This is insane. You've spent over $100,000 on his kids. $100,000 that could have been your down payment on a house, your graduate school tuition, your travel fund, your retirement savings. And that's not even counting the opportunity cost of all those hours you could have spent building your own life. The words hung in the air. Between us. $100,000. 6 years. 2 children who deserved better than parents who treated them like accessories. I felt something hardening inside my chest, like molten metal cooling into steel. Rachel pulled up a chair next to me, her voice gentle but firm. What are you going to do when those twins arrive? Because you know what's coming. Tyler's going to show up at your door with 4 kids, and that same puppy dog expression. And your parents are going to call you selfish if you say no. And you're going to end up right back where you started, except worse. I knew she was right. The pattern was clear. Every time Tyler's life got more complicated, I absorbed the complications. Every time parenthood got hard, I became the solution. And now there would be 2 infants added to the mix, screaming and needing bottles every 3 hours and going through diapers at an alarming rate. The thought made me physically nauseous. I can't do it again, I whispered. I can't raise 2 more of his children. I just can't. Then don't, Rachel said simply. You're not obligated to set yourself on fire to keep your brother warm. Those are his kids. Let him figure it out. But what about Lily and Mason? My voice cracked on their names. They're not just Tyler's kids anymore. They're mine in every way that matters except legally. I can't just abandon them. Rachel's expression softened. You're not abandoning them by setting boundaries. You're teaching them that people can't take advantage of you forever. And honestly, maybe if Tyler actually had to parent his own children, he'd grow up. Right now he has no incentive to change because you've made it too easy for him. That afternoon, I did something I hadn't done in years. I called in sick the next day, asked my neighbor Mrs. Chun to watch Lily and Mason, and drove 3 hours north to Flagstaff where my mother's older sister Veronica lived. Aunt Veronica had been estranged from the family for almost a decade, ever since she'd called out my parents at a holiday dinner for their blatant favoritism toward Tyler. The fight had been explosive. Veronica had accused my mother of babying Tyler into uselessness and taking me for granted. My mother had accused Veronica of being jealous and bitter. They hadn't spoken since. I'd found Veronica's address through an old Christmas card she'd sent me years ago, one of the few pieces of mail I'd kept when I moved apartments. Her house was a small craftsman-style bungalow with a neat garden and a porch swing. When she opened the door and saw me standing there, her face went through a series of expressions: surprise, concern, and then something that looked like relief. Jessica, she breathed. Come in. Come in right now. Veronica's home was everything my parents' house wasn't. Calm, uncluttered, filled with books and plants and soft afternoon light. She made me tea without asking if I wanted any, sat me down at her kitchen table, and simply waited. The story poured out of me in a rush. 6 years of being Tyler's backup parent. The financial strain. The emotional exhaustion. The twins' announcement. The creeping realization that I'd sacrificed my entire 20s for a brother who'd never once said thank you. Veronica listened without interrupting, her face growing darker with every detail. When I finally ran out of words, she reached across the table and gripped my hand. Her voice was steel-wrapped in silk. Jessica, honey, you need to leave. Not just step back, not just set boundaries. You need to physically remove yourself from this situation before it destroys you completely. I've watched my sister enable Tyler since he was in diapers. She turned him into a selfish, entitled man-child. And she's using you to clean up his messes. This will not get better. It will only get worse. But the kids, I started. The kids have 2 parents, Veronica interrupted firmly. 2 able-bodied adults with good jobs and a nice house. The fact that they've chosen not to parent doesn't make it your responsibility. You didn't give birth to those children. You don't owe Tyler your youth, your money, or your future. She stood up and walked to a drawer, pulling out a folder. Inside were printouts of job listings, apartments in different cities, information about graduate programs. I've been hoping you'd come to me, she said quietly. I've been watching from a distance, seeing the posts your mother makes about Tyler's perfect family, while you're invisible in the background of every photo. I knew eventually you'd realize you needed to get out. The folder contained teaching positions in Portland, Seattle, Denver, Austin. Cities far enough from Phoenix that my family couldn't just drop by unannounced. Veronica had highlighted a school counselor position at an elementary school in Portland, a job that paid $58,000 a year and came with relocation assistance. This one, she tapped the listing. I have a friend on the hiring committee. Your teaching experience and the fact that you've essentially been a single parent for 6 years makes you uniquely qualified. You could start fresh. Build the life you actually want instead of the life Tyler's trapped you in. I stared at the papers, my heart hammering. Portland. Rain and coffee shops and a city where nobody knew me as Tyler's sister or Lily and Mason's substitute mom. A place where I could just be Jessica, figuring out who that even was anymore. Can I really just leave? I asked, my voice small. What kind of person abandons children who think she's their mother? Veronica's eyes were fierce. You're not abandoning them. You're refusing to continue enabling their father's neglect. There's a difference. And those kids need to bond with their actual parents, not continue depending on an aunt who's drowning under responsibility that was never hers to carry. I spent 2 days at Veronica's house, talking through logistics and fears, and the guilt that threatened to swallow me whole. She was practical and unsentimental in a way I desperately needed. She helped me update my resume, walked me through how to apply for the Portland position, gave me the name of a family lawyer who could advise me on my rights and responsibilities. You've been acting as their primary guardian for 6 years, the lawyer told me over a phone consultation. But without legal custody or a formal agreement, you have no obligation to continue. Your brother can't force you to keep his children. And frankly, the longer you do this, the harder it will be for those kids when the situation inevitably implodes. On the drive back to Phoenix, I felt something I hadn't experienced in years. Hope mixed with terror. The Portland job application was submitted. I'd scheduled a video interview for the following week. Veronica had transferred $5,000 into my account for moving expenses whenever I was ready. Money she'd apparently been setting aside for years in case I ever escaped. You're the daughter I never had, she'd said when I protested. Let me help you the way my sister should have been helping you all along. I picked up Lily and Mason from Mrs. Chen's apartment, hugging them both tight. They chattered about their 2 days, the cookies they'd baked, the cartoon they'd watched. Mason's small hand in mine felt like both an anchor and a chain. I loved these kids with everything in me. But Rachel was right, and Veronica was right, and the lawyer was right. Love wasn't enough. Love without boundaries was just self-destruction in disguise. That Sunday, I skipped the family dinner for the first time in 6 years. My mother called twice, texting when I didn't answer. Where are you? Tyler and Amber are here with big news about the twins. We're waiting for you. I turned off my phone and took Lily and Mason to the Phoenix Zoo, just the 3 of us. We saw the elephants and the giraffes, ate overpriced ice cream, rode the carousel 3 times. I took photos but didn't post them anywhere. These moments were ours, not content for Tyler to steal and rebrand as his own parenting victories. Monday brought the video interview with Lincoln Elementary in Portland. I'd arranged for Rachel to watch the kids, setting up my laptop in my classroom during my planning period. The principal, a warm woman named Dr. Patricia Flores, smiled at me from the screen. Your application stood out immediately, she said. 6 years of teaching experience plus essentially raising 2 children as a single parent. That's the kind of real-world experience that makes someone an exceptional school counselor. Tell me why you're interested in leaving Phoenix. I'd practiced this answer with Veronica, keeping it professional while hinting at the truth. I'm ready for a change, I said carefully. I've devoted the past 6 years to supporting my family, and I'm at a point where I need to invest that energy in my own career growth. Portland's focus on educational innovation and mental health support really appeals to me. The interview went well. Dr. Flores asked thoughtful questions about conflict resolution, family dynamics, supporting students through trauma. Every answer came easily because I'd lived it. When we finished, she leaned closer to the camera. Off the record, Jessica, I get the sense you're running from something. I just want you to know that whatever you're leaving behind, we'd be lucky to have you here. You have a gift for caring about people. Make sure you save some of that care for yourself. I ended the call and sat in the quiet classroom, her words echoing. Make sure you save some of that care for yourself. When was the last time I'd done that? When was the last time anyone in my family had even suggested I should? That evening, Tyler showed up at my apartment unannounced. I was making dinner, Lily was doing homework at the kitchen table, Mason was playing with blocks in the living room. Tyler walked in like he owned the place, which I guess he felt he did since his children lived here. He was wearing expensive athletic wear, and carrying a smoothie that probably cost $12. Hey Jess, you missed dinner yesterday. Mom was worried. He ruffled Mason's hair, took a selfie with both kids, then flopped onto my couch. So Amber wants to do this big gender reveal thing. Pink and blue smoke bombs, the whole Instagram moment. We're thinking your place since it's more central for everyone. The audacity took my breath away. He wanted to host a party celebrating his third and fourth children at the apartment where I was already raising his first and second children. Using my space, probably expecting me to plan and pay for it, so he and Amber could collect likes and congratulations. I turned off the stove and faced him. No. Tyler looked up from his phone, confused. No what? No, you can't have the gender reveal here. No, I won't plan it. No to all of it. His expression shifted to that wounded confusion he always deployed when he didn't get his way. Come on, Jess. Don't be like that. This is a family celebration. You're going to be an aunt to twins. Aren't you excited? I felt that steel in my chest again, hardening further. I'm tired, Tyler. I've been tired for 6 years. I'm tired of raising your children while you play dad on social media. I'm tired of spending my money on their food and clothes while you buy $45,000 trucks. I'm tired of being invisible in this family except when someone needs something from me. His face flushed. That's not fair. You offered to help. Nobody forced you. The laugh that came out of me was bitter. I was 23 years old when you dumped Lily on me. You said it would be a few weeks. That was 6 years ago, Tyler. 6 years of me putting my life on hold, so you could avoid growing up. Lily looked up from her homework, her small face worried. She'd heard us argue before but never like this. Tyler stood up, his voice rising. What do you want me to say, Jess? That I'm a bad father? Fine. I'm not perfect. But at least I'm trying. You think raising kids is easy? It's not. Amber and I are doing our best. You're not trying, I shot back. Trying would be having your kids sleep in your 4-bedroom house instead of my 1-bedroom apartment. Trying would be paying for their daycare instead of buying gym memberships and taking weekend trips to Sedona. Trying would be showing up to their school events instead of posting photos I took and pretending you were there. Mason started crying, overwhelmed by the raised voices. Tyler looked at his son like he was a stranger, making no move to comfort him. I scooped Mason up, bouncing him gently until his tears subsided. This right here, I said quietly, is the problem. You're standing in a room with your crying child, and your first instinct is to wait for someone else to handle it. Tyler's jaw clenched. Fine. You want me to take them back? Is that what this is about? You're sick of them? The words were designed to wound, to paint me as the villain. But I was done playing that game. I want you to be their father, I said. Really be their father. Not the Instagram version. The real version who changes diapers at 3 in the morning, and sits through parent-teacher conferences and packs school lunches, and actually knows their middle names. He grabbed his keys, heading for the door. You're being dramatic. We'll talk when you've calmed down. He left without saying goodbye to Lily or Mason, the door slamming behind him. Lily whispered, Is Uncle Tyler mad at us? No, baby, I assured her, pulling her into a hug with Mason still on my hip. He's not mad at you. I promise. But even as I said it, I knew something fundamental had shifted. I'd broken the unspoken rule. I'd stopped pretending everything was fine. And there was no going back. Within an hour, my phone exploded with texts. My mother furious. Tyler told me what you said. How dare you speak to your brother that way after everything he's going through? He's about to have 4 children, Jessica. He needs support, not judgment. My father disappointed. Your mother's very upset. Tyler's trying his best. We raised you better than this. Even Amber chimed in, her message dripping with artificial sweetness. Hey Jessica, not sure what's going on between you and Tyler, but let's not involve the kids in adult drama. They need stability right now, especially with the twins coming. Translation. Keep providing free childcare and don't make waves that might affect our social media image. I turned off my phone and focused on bedtime routines. Bath stories, tucking Lily and Mason into the bedroom that should have been mine. After they fell asleep, I opened my laptop and checked my email. There, sitting in my inbox like a lifeline, was a message from Dr. Flores. Subject line, job offer. My hands shook as I clicked it open. Jessica, we were very impressed with your interview. We'd like to offer you the school counselor position at Lincoln Elementary, starting at $58,000 annually with full benefits and relocation assistance of $3,000. Please let us know your decision by Friday. I read it 3 times, making sure it was real. Portland. A fresh start. A salary increase. A career move toward something I actually wanted instead of something I'd settled for. I thought about Lily and Mason asleep in the next room, their breathing soft and steady. I thought about Tyler's face when I'd confronted him, the shock that his endless well of free labor had finally dried up. I thought about my mother's texts, full of expectations and zero acknowledgement of what I'd sacrificed. And I thought about Veronica's words. You're not abandoning them. You're refusing to continue enabling their father's neglect. I opened a reply to Dr. Flores, my fingers hovering over the keyboard. This was it. The moment where I chose myself, possibly for the first time in my adult life. The guilt was enormous, threatening to pull me under. But underneath the guilt was something else. Anger. Righteous, burning anger at a family who'd used me until I was hollow. At a brother who'd never once asked if I was okay. At parents who'd raised him to believe the world owed him endless second chances, while I owed him endless sacrifice. I typed 4 words. I accept your offer. The next morning, I called the family lawyer Veronica had recommended. I need to understand my legal position, I explained. I've been the primary caregiver for my brother's children for 6 years, but I have no formal custody arrangement. What happens if I move out of state? The lawyer was frank. Unless your brother has given you legal guardianship, which it sounds like he hasn't, you have no legal obligation to continue providing care. You're not listed on their birth certificates. You're not their adoptive parent. You're a relative who's been helping out. You can stop helping out whenever you choose. But what if he tries to claim I abandoned them or neglected them? The lawyer made a dismissive sound. Based on what you've told me, you have 6 years of documented evidence that you've been their primary caregiver. You have receipts, school records, medical appointments. If anything, your brother has been neglecting his children by offloading them onto you. No court would see you as the problem here. My advice is to give him written notice that you're moving, and he needs to make other arrangements. 30 days is generous, but covers you legally. I drafted the letter that evening after Lily and Mason were in bed. It was brief, formal, stripped of emotion. Tyler, this letter is to inform you that I will be relocating to Portland, Oregon in 30 days for a new job opportunity. Effective immediately, you need to make alternative childcare arrangements for Lily and Mason. I will be available to discuss transition plans that prioritize the children's well-being, but I can no longer serve as their primary guardian. I printed 2 copies, one for Tyler and one for my parents, and scheduled them to be delivered by certified mail. Rachel threw me a small going-away party at her apartment the following weekend. Just a few teacher friends, wine and takeout, nothing elaborate. But it felt momentous. These were people who saw me as Jessica the teacher, Jessica the friend, not Jessica the perpetual backup parent. Have you told the kids yet? Rachel asked gently. I shook my head. I'm telling them this weekend. I want to do it right, help them understand it's not about them. One of the other teachers, Marcus, spoke up. For what it's worth, you're doing the right thing. I watched my sister do this exact same thing with our brother's kids. She gave up 15 years before she finally snapped. Don't be her. Don't wake up at 40 realizing you have nothing left to give. Saturday morning, I sat down with Lily and Mason in the living room. I'd prepared simple words, age-appropriate explanations. Lily was 6 now, old enough to understand change even if she couldn't grasp all the nuances. Mason was 4, still so small and trusting. I have something important to tell you both, I started. I got a new job in a different city called Portland. It's a place with lots of trees and rain, and I'm going to be helping kids at a school there. Lily's face crumpled immediately. Are we going with you? The question broke my heart. No, sweetie. You're going to stay here with your dad and Amber. They have that big house with the backyard, remember? You'll have your own rooms there. But you're our mom, Lily said, her voice rising. We live with you. Tears were already streaming down her face. Mason looked between us, confused and scared. I pulled them both close, my own eyes burning. I love you both so much. I'll always be your Aunt Jessica, and I'll always love you. But your dad needs to be the one taking care of you. He's your parent. He needs to be the one who tucks you in and makes your breakfast and helps with homework. Lily was sobbing now, clinging to me. I don't want you to go. Please don't go. Mason joined in crying because his sister was crying. both of them pressed against me in a grief I'd caused. The guilt was crushing, suffocating. I held them and cried too, mourning the loss of the only motherhood I'd ever known. But even through the tears, I knew I was doing the right thing. These children deserved parents who showed up. And I deserved a life that was mine. The certified letters arrived at Tyler's house and my parents' house on Monday. Tyler called 17 times that day. I didn't answer. He showed up at my apartment that evening, his face red with fury. Amber was with him, her usual Instagram poise replaced with barely controlled rage. "You can't just leave," Tyler shouted the moment I opened the door. "You can't dump my kids back on me with 30 days' notice." "They're your kids," I said calmly. "They've always been your kids. I was just filling in because you refused to parent them." Amber stepped forward, her voice sharp. "This is incredibly selfish, Jessica. We have twins coming. We need help, not more stress. We've built our whole life around you being available." The admission was startling in its honesty. They'd built their life around my availability. Their careers, their social life, their entire existence had been constructed on the foundation of me sacrificing mine. "That's the problem," I said quietly. "You shouldn't have built your life around me raising your children. You should have built it around raising them yourselves." Tyler's hands clenched into fists. "Mom and Dad are furious. They said you're tearing this family apart." "I'm not tearing anything apart. I'm just stepping back. If that breaks the family, then the family was already broken." Amber's eyes narrowed. "You're going to regret this. Those kids love you. When they're crying for you every night, and you're off in Portland living your selfish little life, you're going to feel terrible." "Maybe," I acknowledged. "But I'll feel terrible with boundaries and a future, instead of feeling terrible while drowning in resentment." Tyler tried one more tactic, his voice dropping to that wheedling tone. "Jess, come on. We're family. Families help each other. I've helped you for 6 years. Now it's your turn to help yourselves. I have a job that starts in 3 weeks. You have 30 days to figure out childcare. I suggest you start looking into daycares and nannies." They left threatening to lawyer up, to fight this somehow, though we all knew they had no legal ground to stand on. My parents showed up the next day, my mother's face pinched with anger. "How could you do this to your brother?" she demanded before she was even fully through the door. "He's drowning, Jessica. He's about to have 4 children, and you're abandoning him in his time of need." I stayed calm, though my heart was racing. He's had 6 years to step up. He chose not to. That's not my fault, and it's not my responsibility to fix. My father tried the disappointed route. "We raised you to be compassionate, to help family. This isn't who you are." But it was who I was. For the first time in my adult life, I was choosing myself. And it felt terrifying and exhilarating in equal measure. "You raised me to be useful," I corrected. "There's a difference. You raised Tyler to believe he doesn't have to face consequences, because someone will always bail him out. Well, I'm done being the bailout." The final 2 weeks in Phoenix were agonizing. Lily cried every night. Mason clung to me constantly. Tyler and Amber started the transition, picking the kids up from school sometimes, having them sleep at their house a few nights a week. The kids would come back confused and upset, not understanding why their routines were changing. But I also saw something interesting. Tyler, forced into actual parenting, was struggling but adapting. He figured out how to make Mason's favorite breakfast. He learned Lily's bedtime routine. Amber, when she couldn't Instagram her way out of it, turned out to be decent at helping with homework. They weren't perfect parents. They were frustrated and overwhelmed and clearly out of their depth. But they were parenting. Actually trying. Because they had no other choice. My last Sunday in Phoenix, I packed my Honda Civic with everything I owned that wasn't furniture. Veronica had driven down to help, her presence a steady anchor. We loaded boxes while Lily and Mason watched from the porch, both of them tear-stained and subdued. Tyler and Amber were coming to pick them up in an hour for what would be their permanent move into the kids' new rooms at their house. I knelt down in front of Lily and Mason one final time. "I need you both to know something really important," I said, holding both their hands. "I love you. I will always love you. And leaving doesn't mean I don't love you. It means I need to take care of myself, so I can be healthy and happy. Sometimes adults have to make really hard choices. Your dad and Amber love you too. They're going to take good care of you. Both kids hugged me so tight I could barely breathe. Lily whispered, "Will you come visit?" "I will, I promised. And you can call me anytime. I'm not disappearing. I'm just moving to a new city." When Tyler and Amber arrived to pick them up, the exchange was stiff and awkward. Tyler couldn't meet my eyes. Amber kept checking her phone. But they loaded Lily and Mason into their nice SUV with the car seats that had mostly lived in my beat-up Honda for 6 years. As they drove away, Lily's small face pressed against the window watching me. I felt grief wash over me. But underneath it was relief. And underneath that was something I hadn't felt in years. Freedom. Veronica drove the first leg to Portland with me, her car following mine like a protective convoy. We stopped halfway at a small Oregon town, getting a motel with 2 beds and eating diner food that tasted better than anything I'd had in months. "You did it," she said over coffee the next morning. "You actually got out. I know it doesn't feel good right now. But I promise you, Jessica, you saved your own life." Portland was gray and drizzly when we arrived, the city wrapped in mist. My new apartment was small but mine, a 1-bedroom in the Pearl District with exposed brick and big windows. No toys scattered across the floor. No sippy cups in the sink. Just space and quiet and possibility. Veronica stayed 3 days helping me unpack and settle in. On her last evening, she took me to dinner at a cozy Vietnamese restaurant. Over pho, she told me stories about breaking free from my mother's influence decades ago. About building a life on her own terms. "You're going to doubt yourself," she said. "Your mother will call and make you feel guilty. You'll see photos of Lily and Mason and wonder if you made a mistake. But remember this, love without boundaries isn't love. It's self-destruction. Those kids needed to learn that their father is their parent, not you. And you needed to learn that you matter too." My first day at Lincoln Elementary was overwhelming in the best way. Dr. Flores gave me a tour, introduced me to the staff, showed me my office. It was small but had a window overlooking the playground. I hung my teaching certificates on the wall next to my counseling credentials. This was mine. Built by me for me. The first week, I threw myself into work. Learning names, understanding school culture, meeting with students who needed support. I was good at this. Really good. Kids opened up to me, sensing perhaps that I understood what it meant to carry burdens too heavy for your age. Rachel called every few days with updates. "Tyler's losing his mind trying to manage 2 kids while Amber's pregnancy gets harder. Your mom's been calling everyone in the family trying to paint you as selfish. But some people are seeing through it. Marcus told his mom what really happened, and she told your mom off at book club. It was legendary." I felt a twinge of guilt but pushed it aside. Their chaos was no longer mine to manage. 6 weeks after I'd left Phoenix, my mother called. Her voice was different, smaller somehow. "Jessica, we need to talk. Tyler's falling apart. The kids cry for you every night. Amber's on bed rest with the twins and he can't handle everything. He needs help. You need to come back." The old Jessica would have crumbled at that tone. Would have packed immediately, driven through the night, sacrificed herself on the altar of family obligation. But I'd spent 6 weeks learning who I was without that weight. I'd made friends, joined a book club, gone on 2 dates with a teacher named Ryan who thought it was impressive that I'd raised my brother's kids and brave that I'd left. "I can't come back, Mom. I have a job and a life here. Tyler has 2 parents, 4 bedrooms, and enough money to hire help. He needs to figure it out. But those children need you," she pressed. "You're the only mother figure they know. That's Tyler's fault, not mine. He had 6 years to transition them. He chose not to. I'm done lighting myself on fire to keep everyone else warm." She hung up on me. For 3 days, silence. Then a text from Tyler. "Please, Jess. I'm begging. Just until the twins are born and Amber recovers. 3 months. I'll pay you this time. I'll do whatever you want. Just please come back." I stared at the message for a long time. 3 months would turn into 6. 6 would turn into a year. The twins would need care. Then the next crisis. Then the next. It would never end unless I ended it. I typed a response carefully. "Tyler, I love Lily and Mason. But I can't be their parent anymore. You need to hire a nanny or ask Mom and Dad to help her figure out daycare. I'm not coming back. This is your chance to actually be their father. Don't waste it. He didn't respond. 2 months into my Portland life, I got a video call request from Lily. My heart jumped. I answered immediately. Her face filled the screen, older somehow in just 2 months. "Hi, Aunt Jessica," she said shyly. "I miss you." "I miss you too, baby. How are you?" She chattered about school, about her new room, about how Daddy was learning to make pancakes but they were always burned. Mason appeared in the background waving. They looked okay. Not thriving perhaps, but okay. At the end of the call, Lily said something that made my eyes sting. "Daddy said you left because you needed to take care of yourself. Is that true?" "It's true," I confirmed. "Sometimes adults need to do that. But I still love you both very much." "Okay," she said solemnly. "I love you too." After the call ended, I sat in my quiet apartment and cried. Not from regret, but from grief for a relationship that had been beautiful and complicated and ultimately unsustainable. I'd given those kids 6 years of unconditional love. Now they'd have to learn to get that from their actual parents. 3 weeks before the twins were born, I got an email from Tyler. No begging this time, just information. Amber went into labor early. The twins are here, both girls, everyone's healthy. Mom and Dad have moved in temporarily to help. It's chaos but we're managing. Thank you for everything you did for Lily and Mason. I'm sorry I took it for granted. The apology was startling. Insufficient, certainly. Years too late. But real. I wrote back a simple congratulations and left it at that. My life in Portland was taking shape. I'd joined a hiking group, started seeing Ryan more seriously, enrolled in a weekend watercolor class just because I'd always wanted to try. I was learning who Jessica was when she wasn't defined by someone else's needs. Some days I felt guilty. Some days I missed Lily and Mason so intensely it physically hurt. But most days I felt lighter, freer, like I'd finally stepped out of a shadow that had covered my entire adult life. Rachel visited for a long weekend, staying in my apartment and exploring Portland with me. Over drinks at a rooftop bar, she raised her glass. To Jessica Morgan, who finally chose herself. We clinked glasses. The Portland skyline glittered around us, full of possibility. I'd left behind a family that took me for granted. Children I'd loved fiercely. A brother who'd never learned to stand on his own. But I'd gained something infinitely more valuable. Myself. My own life. My own future. And that, I was learning, was worth everything. Spring arrived in Portland with cherry blossoms and rain that felt more like promise than gloom. I'd been in the city for 4 months, and the life I was building felt increasingly solid. Lincoln Elementary had become more than just a workplace. It was a community where I mattered not because of what I could do for others, but because of who I was. The teachers invited me to happy hours. The principal praised my work with struggling students. Parents sent thank you notes when I helped their kids navigate anxiety or friendship conflicts. I was seen, valued, appreciated in ways my own family had never managed. Ryan and I had moved past casual dating into something that felt intentional. He taught 5th grade math at a school across town, understood the demands of education, and had his own history of setting boundaries with a demanding family. Our third date had been a long conversation over Thai food where we'd both confessed our baggage. He'd gone low contact with parents who expected him to fund his younger siblings' lifestyle choices. I'd explained the 6 years of raising my brother's children. Neither of us judged the other. We just understood that sometimes love means knowing when to step back. On a Saturday in late March, Ryan and I were hiking Forest Park when my phone rang with a number I didn't recognize. I almost didn't answer, but something made me pick up. Jessica Morgan? A woman's voice, professional and warm. This is Diane Chen from Child Protective Services in Phoenix. I'm calling about Lily and Mason Morgan. My blood went cold. I stopped on the trail, Ryan's concerned face blurring at the edges of my vision. Are they okay? What happened? They're safe, Diane assured me quickly. But we've opened an investigation into their living situation. Your brother Tyler and his partner Amber were reported by the Children's School for Educational Neglect and concerning home conditions. We're conducting interviews with family members. Your name came up repeatedly as their primary caregiver, until recently. I sank onto a nearby bench, my legs suddenly unreliable. Educational neglect. Home conditions. The words painted a picture I'd feared, but hoped wouldn't materialize. What do you need from me? I can provide documentation of their care, while they lived with me. Medical records, school records, receipts. I have everything. That would be helpful, Diane said. But I'm also calling because both children have asked for you specifically. They're currently in temporary foster care, while we assess the situation. Would you be willing to speak with them? The world tilted. Foster care. Lily and Mason, those babies I'd raised, were in the system because Tyler had failed them exactly as I'd known he would. The guilt crashed over me in waves. If I'd stayed, they wouldn't be in foster care. If I'd just held on a little longer, pushed through my own exhaustion, sacrificed a bit more. Ryan's hand found mine, grounding me. I could hear him whispering, though I couldn't process the words. I can speak with them, I told Diane, my voice hollow. When? She arranged a video call for the following evening. After I hung up, I looked at Ryan and the tears finally came. I did this. I left and now they're in foster care. This is my fault. Ryan pulled me close, his voice firm. This is Tyler's fault. He had every resource, every opportunity. He failed his children. You didn't cause this, Jessica. You just stopped enabling him. To avoid the consequences. But the guilt didn't care about logic. That night I couldn't sleep. I lay in my Portland apartment, staring at the ceiling, imagining Lily and Mason in some stranger's home. Scared and confused. I'd promised to visit. I'd promised to call. But work had been consuming, and building my new life had been all-encompassing, and the calls had become less frequent. The last time I'd spoken to Lily had been 3 weeks ago. She'd seemed fine then, chatty about school and her new baby sisters. The video call the next evening was scheduled for 6 o'clock. I set up my laptop with Rachel on speakerphone for moral support and Ryan sitting just off camera. When the screen connected, Lily's face appeared, thinner than I remembered, her eyes shadowed with something no 6-year-old should carry. Aunt Jessica, she whispered, and started crying immediately. Mason appeared next to her, his 4-year-old face crumpling. I want to come home. I want you. The foster mother, a kind-looking woman named Mrs. Patterson, sat nearby but gave them space. I swallowed past the lump in my throat. Hi, babies. I miss you so much. Tell me what's happening. Are you being treated okay where you are? The story came out in fragments. After I'd left, Tyler had tried for a few weeks. But the twins' arrival had overwhelmed him completely. Amber, dealing with postpartum complications and 2 newborns, had no capacity for Lily and Mason. The house had descended into chaos. Lily described coming home from school to find no food in the fridge, dirty clothes piled everywhere, the babies crying constantly while Tyler and Amber fought. Mason had missed a week of preschool because nobody remembered to take him. Lily's teacher had noticed she was wearing the same outfit 3 days in a row, that she seemed exhausted and hungry. A wellness check had revealed conditions that didn't meet the threshold for removal based on physical safety, but raised serious concerns about neglect. Then Tyler had lost his job. The sales position that had required so much travel, that he'd used as an excuse for why he couldn't parent, had let him go for missed quotas. The mortgage on the big house with the pool had become unsustainable. They'd moved into a cramped apartment, all 6 of them in a 2-bedroom unit. The breaking point had come when Mason was found wandering the apartment complex parking lot alone at 9 o'clock at night. A neighbor had called the police. Tyler and Amber claimed they thought he was asleep. They'd been dealing with the twins and simply forgotten to check on their 4-year-old son. That's when CPS had stepped in, placing Lily and Mason in emergency foster care pending investigation. I listened to all of this with a growing sense of horror and vindication tangled together. I'd known Tyler wasn't capable. I'd warned him. But knowing I'd been right didn't make the children's suffering any easier to bear. Can you come get us? Lily asked, her voice small and desperate. Mrs. Patterson is nice, but this isn't our home. We want to be with you. The question hung in the air. Could I? Should I? I'd spent 4 months building boundaries, learning to choose myself, creating a life that was finally mine. Taking Lily and Mason would mean appending everything again. It would mean legal battles, custody arrangements, potentially moving to a bigger apartment. It would mean Rachel's warnings coming true. that I'd sacrifice myself over and over until there was nothing left. But it would also mean those children, who I loved more than anything, wouldn't be in the system. It would mean giving them stability and safety, and the kind of love that showed up every single day. I don't know yet, sweetie, I said honestly. But I promise I'm going to figure out what's best for you both. You're not alone in this, okay? After the call ended, I sat in silence. Rachel spoke first over the phone. Before you even think it, this is still not your responsibility. Those kids have 2 living parents and 4 living grandparents. You are not the only option. But what if I want to be an option? I asked quietly. What if I choose this, not because I have to, but because I want to? That's different, Rachel conceded. Choosing is different than being forced. But Jessica, be really honest with yourself. Are you choosing this because you want it, or because the guilt is eating you alive? I didn't have an answer. Over the next week, I consulted with Diane at CPS, with a family lawyer in Portland, with Veronica who'd dropped everything to fly up from Flagstaff. The situation was complex. Tyler and Amber's rights hadn't been terminated. They were being given a reunification plan, classes on parenting, requirements they had to meet to get the kids back. But if I wanted to file for custody, I could. My 6 years as primary caregiver gave me standing. The children's expressed preference for me would carry weight. It wouldn't be easy or quick, but it was possible. Veronica sat across from me in my living room, her expression serious. I'll support whatever you decide. But you need to go into this eyes wide open. If you take those kids, Tyler will use you again. Your parents will expect you to just handle everything. The boundary you set will dissolve like it never existed. You'll be right back where you started, except this time in Portland instead of Phoenix. Unless I do it differently, I countered. Unless I file for full legal custody. Unless I make it clear that this time, I'm the parent and Tyler is the visitor. Unless I protect myself legally and financially, so I'm not just the free backup plan. Is that even possible? She considered this. With the right lawyer and iron boundaries, maybe. But those are your family. Iron boundaries with them won't be easy. I knew she was right. But I also knew that Lily and Mason in foster care would haunt me forever. I'd spent 4 months learning to choose myself. Maybe now I could choose them too. But on my terms, with my eyes open, with legal protection and clear boundaries. The decision crystallized one evening when Dr. Flores called me into her office at Lincoln Elementary. Jessica, I heard about the situation in Phoenix. I want you to know that whatever you decide, you have our support. If you need to take family leave to sort this out, we can arrange it. If you decide to pursue custody and need flexibility, we'll work with you. You're valuable to this school. We don't want to lose you. Her words shifted something inside me. In Phoenix, I'd been taken for granted. Here, I was valued enough that people would accommodate my needs. That was the difference. That was what made choosing possible instead of inevitable. I called Diane at CPS the next morning. I want to file for emergency custody of Lily and Mason. What do I need to do? The process moved quickly once set in motion. I retained a family lawyer in Phoenix who specialized in kinship custody cases. We filed an emergency petition citing my history as primary caregiver and the children's stated preference. Tyler and Amber were served with papers. My parents lost their minds. My mother called screaming. You can't do this. You can't take Tyler's children away from him. He's their father. He's neglected them into foster care, I replied calmly. I'm not taking them away. I'm giving them stability while he gets his life together. If he completes his reunification plan, we can discuss visitation and gradual transition. But right now, those kids need consistency. I'm offering that. My father tried the guilt route again. After everything we've done for you, this is how you repay us? By tearing this family apart? You did nothing for me, I said, the words coming easier now. You enabled Tyler, criticized me, and took my sacrifice for granted. I'm not tearing the family apart. I'm protecting 2 children who deserve better. The court hearing was scheduled for 3 weeks later. I flew to Phoenix, staying with Veronica who'd driven down to support me. The courtroom was tense. Tyler showed up looking haggard, Amber beside him. My parents sat behind them, shooting daggers with their eyes. The judge reviewed the case file, interviewed Diane from CPS, heard testimony about the children's living conditions and Tyler's failure to meet their basic needs. Then she asked to speak to Lily and Mason privately. When they emerged 20 minutes later, Lily was holding the judge's hand. The judge's expression was thoughtful as she returned to the bench. I've spoken with both children at length. It's clear they have a strong bond with their Aunt Jessica and feel safe with her. Given Mr. Morgan's current inability to provide stable housing and care, and given Ms. Morgan's documented history as their primary caregiver, I'm granting emergency temporary custody to Jessica Morgan pending further review in 6 months. Tyler's face crumpled. My mother gasped. But I just felt relief washing over me like rain. The judge continued, Mr. Morgan, you'll be granted supervised visitation twice monthly, and the opportunity to work toward reunification if you complete the required parenting classes and demonstrate stable housing and employment. This is not a termination of your rights. This is protection for your children while you get yourself together. Outside the courtroom, Tyler approached me. Amber had already left, unwilling to face the reality. He looked broken in a way I'd never seen. I messed up, he said simply. I really messed up. You were right about everything. I wasn't ready to be a parent. I'm still not sure I am. But those are my kids, Jess. I love them even if I don't know how to show it right. I know, I said. And you'll have chances to figure it out. But Lily and Mason can't wait for you to get there. They need stability now. He nodded, tears on his face. Will you let me try? Let me do the classes, get a job, prove I can be better? If you do the work, really do it, we'll figure out what comes next, I promised. But Tyler, the days of me enabling you are over. I'm their legal guardian now. You're the visiting parent. That's the reality until you earn more. The 6 months that followed were intense but manageable in ways the previous 6 years had never been. I enrolled Lily and Mason in Lincoln Elementary, where I could see them during the day. I moved into a 3-bedroom apartment with help from Veronica and a raise Dr. Flores had secured for me. Ryan stepped up in ways that showed me what partnership could look like, helping with homework and soccer practices without being asked. Tyler did complete his parenting classes. He found a new job, a steadier one with less travel. He moved into a modest but clean apartment. His supervised visits with the kids were awkward at first but gradually became easier. Amber wasn't part of the picture anymore. She'd left Tyler shortly after the custody hearing, taking the twins to live with her parents in California. The marriage had been built on a fantasy that crumbled under the weight of reality. My parents eventually came around, though the relationship would never be what it was. My mother sent a stiff email acknowledging that maybe she'd enabled Tyler too much. My father called once to say he was proud of how I'd handled things. It wasn't enough, but it was something. The 6-month review hearing was less dramatic than the first. The judge noted Tyler's progress, but also the children's thriving with me. She extended my custody for another year with increased unsupervised visitation for Tyler. He could have them 1 weekend a month, holidays to be split. It wasn't perfect, but it was workable. Life settled into a new rhythm. Lily and Mason adjusted to Portland, made friends, flourished in school. They video called Tyler weekly, visited him monthly. The relationship was healing but different, built on reality instead of obligation. One evening, almost a year after I'd first left Phoenix, Lily crawled into my lap while I was reading on the couch. Mason was already asleep. Ryan was grading papers at the kitchen table. The apartment was warm and quiet, and full of the kind of peace I'd once thought impossible. Aunt Jessica, Lily said thoughtfully, "Are you glad you came back for us?" I pulled her closer, breathing in the smell of her strawberry shampoo. "I'm glad I chose to come back for you," I clarified. "There's a difference. Before I didn't have a choice. This time I did. And I chose you because I love you, not because I had to." She considered this with the seriousness of a 7-year-old. "I'm glad you chose us," she said simply. "Me too, baby. Me too." And I was. Because this time, I'd chosen them with boundaries and legal protection and a life of my own. This time, I wasn't sacrificing myself. I was building something sustainable. The story didn't have a fairy tale ending. Tyler was still Tyler, doing better but always requiring management. My parents were still complicated. The twins grew up mostly without their sisters, a sadness I couldn't fix. But Lily and Mason had stability. I had a career I loved and a partner who saw me. We had family dinners and inside jokes and the knowledge that we'd all survived something that could have broken us. Sometimes choosing yourself looks like leaving. Sometimes it looks like coming back. The key is that it's a choice, made with open eyes and protected boundaries. I'd learned that lesson the hard way, but I'd learned it. And that made all the difference. Up next, you've got 2 more standout stories right on your screen. If this one hit the mark, you won't want to pass these up. Just click and check them out.